Hi, this is author Domingo Castillo coming to you live from Coolidge, Arizona tonight. And I'm just going to read another part of The Caregiver. And if you'd like to give me comments or tell me what you think of it so far, I would appreciate it. We did not decide to leave in a single conversation. It was 1,000 small concessions that became a single terrible choice. The male intake nurse said Arizona. The insurance case manager and authorization said authorization would be smoother there. The specialist said you need to be close for frequent visits. Every voice pushed east. I called a realtor out of duty, not desire. She walked through our house with professional compliments. Great bones, immaculate yard, the pool is a jewel. She ran numbers and said the market would be strong, but there was no guarantee. I hated her for being right. Packing began with denial, seasonal clothes, books we didn't need right now, toys that could wait. Then the kitchen cabinets emptied, the photos came down, and the house sounded different. Quieter, like it knew what was coming. The neighbors brought over foil-covered casseroles and 2 long hugs. Church friends prayed in the living room, their voices a quilt we wrapped around us. A woman from down the street pressed a small envelope into our hand. Later, I opened it to find grocery money and a note for the road. The kids pressed into their language, processed it in their language. Jesse disappeared in the garage to pound nails into scrap wood until his arms shook. Jessica lined up her dolls and told them they were going on a trip. Eladio carried boxes without complaint, muscles straining, eyes far away. I caught him in the game room alone, one hand on the pool table, his jaw tight. He didn't cry, neither did I, not then. On the last night, we ate pizza on the floor because the table was already gone. The house echoed. We told stories, the time the pool turned green, the time Jessica painted the dog, the time a backyard birthday ended with everyone in the jacuzzi fully dressed. We laughed until the laugh turned into silence. Morning came like a deadline. I walked each room, palm on drywall, saying goodbye to more than walls. In the primary bedroom, I stood by the window and watched the palm fronds move like slow hands waving. Thank you, I said. I enjoyed the empty room. Help us. We loaded the last box into the U-Haul. I checked the doors twice. We gathered at the curb. I looked at my wife, pale, tired, and determined, and ready. I asked, she nodded. The kids climbed into their seats, and I took the wheel. As we turned onto the street, the house fell behind us in the side mirror. Sunlight on the stucco, the blue of the pool was visible, the yard perfect, like a postcard. I couldn't watch it shrink. I watched the road instead, and the line of the sky that meant Arizona. The drive felt longer than the miles. Rest stops, fast food, the dogs confused and panting. Jessica fell asleep, and her head against the glass. Jesse asked how much further, without really wanting to know. Eladio followed us in his car for part of the way, then peeled off back towards San Diego. In his freshman year, no one would recognize as normal. Crossing the state line, we didn't cheer. We prayed, Lord, get us there. The desert opened like a vow and a warning. By sundown, we were in a different life. The key to the granny flat stuck in the lock, the door opened to a room that smelled like dust and effort. We sat air mattresses on a concrete floor hidden by a carpet and told the kids we'd figure out the rest tomorrow. We were not brave that night. We were obedient to the need. The granny flat taught us how small a life can get and still hold love. The first week was logistics. Where do we put the boxes? How do we make beds out of nothing? Which corner will the kitchen when the stove works only when it wants to? We learned the rattle of the window and the AC, which outlets sparked if you looked at them wrong. Privacy was a memory, a curtain for a door, a whisper for a wall. Morning started with the sound of the neighbor's sprinkler and ended with the sound of medical alarms at Mayo. I made microwave eggs and toast that no one finished. I left for ASU in a clean shirt and came home with dust in my boots and questions in my head. The universities treated me well. They really did. Supervisors who learned my name, crews who respected the work. I loved the job. It gave me a place to be competent while everything else was out of my hands. Afternoon belonged to appointments, blood draws, vitals, consultants. We learned which nurse could find a vein on the first try and which tech told corny jokes that made my wife smile even when she was nervous. I kept a notebook, doses, names, questions. Hope lived in the margins. Evenings belonged to what used to be called dinner. The microwave beeped like a megaphone. Jessica set paper plates with ceremony. Jesse ate standing up, eyes on the door. I tried to talk about anything but illness, but every conversation boomeranged back to numbers, lab results, and bank balances. Nights were the hardest. Heat rose into the room no matter what the AC promised. Arguments had nowhere to go. They ricocheted off the wall and landed on all of us. Jessica cried quietly into her pillow. Jesse paced. I lay awake at night listening to my wife breathe, counting seconds between coughs, bargaining with God in the dark. If he'll get us just through another day. The dogs adjusted better than we did. They learned the new patch of gravel to lie on, the exact angle light where warmth pooled, where tempers rose. A wet nose against a friend often softened a mood faster than any sermon. And, that was wonderful about the dogs. And I'm just stepping away from the book for a minute because they did adjust. As long as they were with us, they were great. Eladio was a ghost and a lifeline, present in phone calls, absent in the room. How is she? He'd ask from UCSG between classes and dishwashing shift. What do the labs say? I told him what I could without getting a weight on him. He was always carrying. On weekends, she'd appear at the door, shoulders wider each time, courage worn like a jacket. He never took off. He slept on the floor without complaint. On Sunday nights, he drove back to San Diego in the dark. Loneliness arrives like a fourth dog and refused to leave. We had family nearby, but proximity isn't the same thing as comfort. Being a guest in a space we're surviving in is a delicate shame. Grateful and embarrassed, careful and tired. Friends from California called less as weeks turned into months. People love you, but they live where they are. It's in that tight space my wife's illness became the weather. Some days a heavy sky, some days a sudden storm. There were good mornings when she sat up and joked with Jessica. There were bad afternoons when I carried her to the car because walking was too much. I learned to read the shade of her skin, the way the farmer reads clouds. One evening after a long day at the clinic, she said, "I don't want to be a burden." I took her hand. "You are the reason I'm here," I said. "Burden is not the word," she nodded, tears pooling but not falling. It was during those cramped months that the talk of donors grew from backyard noise to the only conversation. Lists moved slowly. Time did not. A living donor was no longer a theory. It was a lifeline thrown across a widening gap. None of us said Eladio's name at first. We didn't need to. The thought was already sitting at the table between the pill organizer and the stack of bills, waiting to be spoken aloud. The donor. The first time the word donor came up, it landed like a stone in the middle of the pond. The ripples went out in every direction. We all knew what it meant. Not just a surgery, but a sacrifice. Eladio was only 18, barely beginning his freshman year at UC San Diego. His life was supposed to be about classes, late night study sessions, new friendships, and building dreams. Instead, he came home on weekends with stacks of textbooks in his bag and worry written across his face. One evening, he sat at the small kitchen table in the granny flat, paper spread before him. I was trying to make sense of the insurance forms, numbers, and codes that blurred together under the yellow light. Eladio pulled up out his chair and sat down across from us. "Dad," he said steadily but quietly, "I want to get tested for Mom." I froze, pen in my hand. "Tested for what?" I asked. "You know what," he said. "The transplant. Let's see if I'm a match." I dropped the pen. My chest tightened, and for a long moment I couldn't speak. This was my son. The thought of them cutting into him and taking part of his body felt unbearable. "No," I said firmly. "Eladio, you're just starting college. You have your whole future ahead of you. You don't know what this could do to you." He leaned forward, eyes burning with conviction. "Dad, listen to me. Mom gave me life. If I can give some of it back, I will. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you what I'm going to do." I looked at him, at the boy who became a man right in front of me. His jaw was set, his hands clenched. It wasn't reckless decision. It was love, pure and unshakable. When he told his mother's, tears streamed down her face. She tried to protest wearily, shaking her head. "No, Eladio, I can't let you do this." But he knelt by her bedside, took her hand in his, and said softly, "Mom, you've done everything for us. Let me do this for you." Jessica, still young, sat nearby with wide, frightening eyes. "Will it hurt him?" she asked, And yes, I honestly said, my throat tight, but he will heal. Jesse stormed out of the room, the emotions too tangled to express. Later, I found him outside kicking at the gravel. Why does it have to be him, he muttered. Why does everyone have to give up everything for this? His anger wasn't at his mother, but at the cruel unfairness of it all. He hated this situation. The testing began, trip after trip to Mayo Clinic. Eladio endured needle after needle, scan after scan. The doctors measured his liver, studied his blood, assessed his strength. Each time he came out pale but determined. It's fine, he says. I can handle it. Then the day came when the doctor sat us down. He's a match, he said simply. He's strong enough to donate. My heart sank and soared at the same time. Relief that there was hope. Terror of what it would cost. They explained the surgery, 65% of Eladio's liver would be removed and transplanted into his mother. The liver can regenerate. They said both livers, his and hers, would grow back, but the risks were real. Bleeding, infection, complications. My son could die saving his mother. I couldn't breathe as the words sank in. I wanted to shout, to demand another opinion. But Eladio sat tall, nodding as though the surgeon had told him nothing more serious than a dental cleaning. Schedule it, he said. I looked at him, my boy, my son, and realized he wasn't asking anymore. He wasn't stepping into the role of protector, of savior, of a man, and all I could do was pray. He was stepping into the role of a protector, a savior of man, and all I could do was pray, Lord, don't let us lose him. Don't let this be the price. The date was set. We circled it on the calendar, each day ticking down like the beat of a drum. Life became a mixture of paperwork, hospital visits, whispered prayers, and a tension that never left the air. We tried to eat dinner as a family, but every conversation circled back to the same thing, surgery. Jessica clung to her mother's side. Jesse grew quieter, his anger folding into silence. My wife's eyes, one dulled by illness, now carried both fear and hope. She whispered to me one night, what if I lose him? And I had no answer. As for me, I carried it like a stone in my chest. I worked by day at the university, pretending life was normal, but every blade of grass I cut, every tree I trimmed, and every step across campus was haunted by the thought, my mom was about to give up part of it. My son is about to give up part of himself to keep his mother alive. And I prayed over and over. I prayed for strength, for mercy, for both of them to survive what laid ahead. The surgery was coming, and with it, the day that would mark us forever. This is where I'm going to stop today. I hope you enjoy it, and let me know in your comments.